The doll who played music after midnight never stopped. They said it was just a toy, a novelty, a relic from a time when craftsmanship mattered and music boxes were more than cheap gifts. I found her in the attic of my grandmother's house, wrapped in yellowed linen, tucked inside a carved oak chest. Porcelain skin, glassy blue eyes, red ribbons braided into her hair, and in her arms, a tiny violin. When I wound the silver key in her back, the strings hummed with a lullaby I didn't recognize. It wasn't sweet, it was slow and off-kilter, like a song written in reverse. The bow moved across the strings on its own, and the doll's eyes, they trembled. I should have stopped there, but the music was hypnotic. I brought her downstairs, placed her on the fireplace mantel. She looked too lifelike to be forgotten in a dusty attic, too precious to throw away. That first night, I woke at 12:03 a.m. The melody echoed down the hall, distant, muffled, but unmistakable. The doll was playing. I hadn't wound her. I walked into the living room, heart in my throat, and saw her arms gliding smoothly back and forth. The violin sang, soft and slow. Her face tilted slightly toward me, like she knew I was there, like she was waiting. I stood frozen, the air thick and heavy with something I couldn't name. The fireplace behind her was unlit, yet her shadow danced on the bricks like a flame flickered nearby. The music stopped. Her head tilted down. I took her upstairs and locked her in a chest of drawers. I even stuffed old clothes around her, as if that would silence whatever was inside. It didn't work. At 12 a.m., sharp the next night, the violin began again. But this time it was louder. And it wasn't just the music. I heard footsteps, tiny ones, clicking slowly across the floorboards. And then, a knock on my bedroom door. 3 soft taps. Then silence. I didn't answer. I didn't move. But the violin, it never stopped playing. Not that night. Not the next. And not even now. Because once the doll begins her song after midnight, she never stops. I didn't sleep for 3 nights. Every night, at exactly midnight, the music would begin, no matter where I hid her, locked her, or buried her beneath blankets and furniture. The song crept through the walls, soft at first, then louder, like it was crawling its way back to me. By the 4th night, I snapped. I took the doll outside, marched into the woods behind the house, and hurled her into the dark. I didn't wait to hear her land. I just ran back home, bolted the doors, and sank onto the floor in a flood of breathless relief. That night I slept, but at 12:07 a.m., I woke to the music again, louder than ever, clearer. It was coming from the hallway, and when I stepped out of my room, I found muddy footprints, tiny, bare footprints leading from the front door to the living room mantel. She was back, dry, pristine, sitting where I'd first placed her, like she never left. But something had changed. The violin's bow moved more fluidly now. Her fingers curled tighter around the strings, and her head wasn't tilted down anymore. It was upright, watching me. I didn't scream. I didn't speak. I backed away slowly, grabbed my phone, and dialed the only person who might understand, Nana. She answered on the first ring. "You found it, didn't you?" she said. Not a question, a quiet, tired confirmation. "What is it?" I whispered. "Why does it keep playing?" There was a long pause. Then, barely above a breath, she said, "I told your father to burn it before you were born." My blood turned to ice. She's older than this house, older than the town. She plays for the ones who forget. She plays until you remember. Remember what? I asked. She only comes back to blood, Nana said. She's bound to your name. The line went dead. I turned toward the mantel. The doll was gone, but the music was still playing. From upstairs, my bedroom, I climbed the staircase slowly, each step creaking under the weight of dread. The door was open just a crack, but enough for the melody to slip through like smoke. When I pushed it open, I saw her, sitting on my pillow, and scrawled on the wall above my bed, in perfect cursive. "Now you remember me." I stared at the writing above my bed, heart pounding against my ribs. "Now you remember me." But I didn't. I didn't remember anything. I didn't know who or what she was, only that every night since I found her, something inside me had been unraveling. The doll sat on my pillow, her porcelain face tilted upward, her blue glass eyes locked on mine. Her tiny violin lay in her lap, silent for once. but the bow was still swaying, as if waiting for permission to start again. I backed out of the room, slammed the door shut, and bolted it. Then I went to the attic, the one place I'd been avoiding since I found her. I tore through boxes and bins, shoving aside old clothes, photo albums, broken lamps. And that's when I found it. A diary, bound and worn, blue leather, the spine fraying, the first page yellowed and cracked. It wasn't mine. It wasn't Nana's. But the name inside was familiar. Elsabeth M. Harrow, 1893. The entries were messy, ink smeared with age, but the words were unmistakable. They spoke of a child, lonely, unwanted, given a doll by a traveling musician. A doll that could play music on its own. A doll that whispered stories in the dark. At first, Elsabeth adored it. She wrote of midnight serenades, imaginary concerts, and how the doll kept her company when no one else would. But then the tone shifted. Elsabeth's entries became frantic, desperate. She claimed the doll spoke in languages she couldn't understand, that its music made her bleed from the nose, that it moved at night, that it made her hurt people. The final entry read, "I buried her in the cellar. If she finds me again, I won't be myself anymore." Underneath it, scratched in shaking ink, "She wants to play forever." I slammed the diary shut and ran back downstairs. My bedroom door was wide open. The music had started again, slow, mournful, echoing through the house like a funeral dirge. I stepped inside. The writing on the wall had changed. It now said, "You're almost ready to remember." And beside it, in blood-red strokes, "Play with me." I turned to run, but the door slammed shut on its own. And behind me, the bow began to move. I was locked in. The door wouldn't budge, no matter how hard I pulled. My knuckles turned white against the wood. From behind, the violin's song tightened the air like a noose, dragging the room into silence between each dreadful note. She was playing again, but this time it wasn't just music. Each pull of the bow sent a sensation crawling up my spine. Not fear, something deeper. Memory, like the melody itself, was dragging something long buried to the surface. I turned, slowly. The doll sat on my pillow, legs perfectly crossed, arms bent in mechanical grace, the bow sweeping across her violin strings in steady rhythm. Her glassy eyes stared directly into mine. My head throbbed. Images flashed across my vision. Faces I didn't know, a girl sobbing in a stone basement, her hands over her ears as music echoed through the walls. The doll, always the doll, watching, waiting, playing. A voice whispered in my head, "You left me down there. Alone." "No," I muttered. "I don't know you." The doll's head tilted, a soft creak in her porcelain neck. The music grew louder. I fell to my knees, clutching my head. My skin burned. My teeth ached. And beneath my ribs, something pulsed, offbeat and wrong. That's when I saw the mirror. Across the room, my reflection stood perfectly still. Too still. It didn't flinch when I screamed. It didn't breathe when I gasped. It just stared. And behind it, standing in the shadows, was her, but not the doll. A girl. A girl in a tattered dress, with hollow eyes and a mouth sewn shut with red thread. She raised a finger to her lips, then pointed to me. And my reflection smiled. I remembered. Elsabeth wasn't just the doll's first owner. She was my sister. The sister no one ever spoke of. The one my family erased. Hidden away. Forgotten. She had disappeared when I was barely a toddler. No one ever told me the truth. Until now. The music reached a crescendo, vibrating the walls, the floor, my bones. And then silence. The doll stood up. Her limbs jerked unnaturally, head twitching side to side. Then she stepped off the bed, her violin still in hand. "One more night," she whispered, "and then we play forever." Midnight struck. The doll stood at the foot of my bed, violin in hand, bow rising slowly like a blade preparing its final descent. Her porcelain face gleamed in the dim light, cracked slightly now, just enough to reveal something beneath. Not skin, not bone, something older, something hungry. I tried to move, to scream, to run, but my body wouldn't obey. My limbs were lead, my mouth dry, my thoughts tangled in a melody I couldn't stop humming in the back of my throat. A tune I didn't know, but that somehow belonged to me. The room pulsed with soundless music. The mirror across from me shimmered, the glass rippling like water. Inside, I saw her again. Elsabeth. She was clearer now, closer. Her stitched mouth trembled with effort. Blood leaked from the corners. And then, in a horrifying surge of motion, she reached forward and tore the stitches free. Her scream echoed in my head, not through my ears, but from inside me. You let her in. You let her in again. The doll raised her bow and began to play. Not a lullaby this time. Something violent. Sharp. A discordant shriek of strings and shrill screeches that clawed at the walls. Lights burst. Paint cracked. The very house groaned, as if rejecting the sound. The melody wrapped around my spine and pulled. I felt my shadow begin to stretch. Then, I remembered the diary. Elsabeth's final words. If she find me again, I won't be myself anymore. It wasn't a warning. It was a pattern. She had done this before. The doll didn't kill. She replaced. She used the music to hollow you out, note by note, until all that remained was the vessel. Until the memory of you vanished, and she could wear you like a song. And I was next. In a last act of desperation, I hurled the mirror to the ground. It shattered with a scream, and in that moment, the melody faltered. The doll paused. Elsabeth reached through the glass and touched my hand. In a blink, she was gone. And so was the doll. Silence. Total and unnatural. But I don't feel right. I still hum her song when I sleep. My shadow still flickers when the lights dim. And some nights, I hear footsteps in the attic. Tiny, bare, delicate, dragging a violin behind them. She never stops.